Number 1 on the polynomial review portion of the test says, consider the polynomial expression 10x to the fourth plus 38x to the third minus 118x squared minus 278x plus 60. So A says use a graphing calculator to determine which expressions are equivalent, circling all equivalent expressions. So they're equivalent to this is what it should say. So which are equivalent to this one? And then explain in words for B how your graphing calculator helped you tell. So you had to understand B to even be able to do A. The main thing for your graphing calculator is, we've been spending a lot of time figuring out how to factor, figuring out how to multiply. But if you're given a bunch of expressions, say on the multiple choice test, like the North Carolina final, and you want to know if the two are equal, factoring just means creating an equivalent expression that looks different. So one way you can do this is by putting them in your calculator and the graphing calculator and seeing if their graphs and their tables match up. They should have the same for every input value. They should have the same output value. So I'm going to put these into the calculator. X squared minus 278x plus 60. So I've entered in the original, and I'm just double checking, there's a lot there. So one thing about using your graphing calculator, you need to make sure you enter in things correctly. That's the big thing. And then I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to type in the same, I'm going to type in the first one, 10x to the third plus 18x squared minus 154x plus 30, and then times x plus 2, and I'm going to go back and make sure I did that correctly. Because if the calculator is going to do most of the work for me, I should double check. Okay, now I'm going to do, I'm probably going to do a window zoom fit. So if I go to zoom and then zoom fit, this will kind of help me pick a window that will work for both of them. And notice it's working now. So this is the first graph right now that it's graphing. Okay, and now see how it's still working? But that means it's graphing something, and it's probably graphing something that's right on top of this. But I can't be 100% sure. It could be a graph that just went outside of this window. So a second place I like to go is I like to hit second graph for the table and just make sure that for every x value, I get the same output. Okay, so that shows me that this expression and this expression are equivalent, right? So that actually means that x plus 2 is a factor of this, right? So I'm going to do one more. And I actually think that it's probably best to only compare one at a time. So I'm going to leave y1 in there because I'm comparing it to this. But I'm going to clear out y2, and I'm going to put in x squared plus 4x minus 15 times 10x squared plus 9x minus 2. And now I'm going to graph those two. I'm going to do another zoom fit, that's 0. And so I'm comparing this to this one now and seeing what happens. So again, here's that first graph that we saw the first time. But now if you notice the second graph is graphing close to but not exactly. And if they're not exactly matches, they are not equivalent expressions. Equivalent means for every input, you get the exact same output. Not sometimes, not close, but every input you get the exact same output. So this is that's not an equivalent expression. So you do these other two. And explain in words how your graphing calculator helped you. That's your job to do. I pretty much explained it. You write it in words.